Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're taking a super practical and honestly kind of fascinating journey to uncover exactly why so many of us feel stuck financially and, more importantly, how to actually flip the script. Our goal today isn't just to talk about money. We want to move you from a place of financial anxiety to total empowerment. We're going to look at some brilliant data and behavioral science that reveals the invisible traps that are just quietly draining your wealth.
Okay, let's dive right into this. 47%. Almost half of Americans say they cannot cover a $1,000 emergency expense. And here is the kicker. This statistic actually includes people making over six figures. No way, right? But it clearly shows us that being broke isn't strictly an income problem. I mean, if you don't have a system for the money you're making, you're going to feel poor no matter what your salary is. Building wealth is really about awareness and structure.
So here is our roadmap for today's explainer. We're looking at financial blindness, emotional and social spending, the big purchase problem, automating savings, and finally, claiming free money.
Let's start with pillar number 1, financial blindness.
The harsh reality here is that you absolutely cannot build wealth if you don't even know your financial baseline. Avoiding where you stand makes everything else literally impossible to fix. Behavioral economists actually call this the ostrich effect. It's that natural tendency we have to just bury our heads in the sand rather than face potentially bad financial news. Actually, get this. Did you know 1 in 3 people would rather deep clean a bathroom with rubber gloves than look at their savings account? But research shows that people who avoid checking their accounts exhibit way more volatile spending patterns, especially right around payday. Ignorance is definitely not bliss here. It's just expensive.
And because of that, there is a massive gap between perception and reality. On average, people estimate they spend about $86 a month on subscriptions. But the actual data? It shows they are spending over $219. Almost a third of people underestimate this by over $100 a month. This is the ostrich effect in action, slowly draining your bank account $5 at a time.
To highlight just how absurd this has all become, I love this quote from comedian Trevor Noah. He said, "Amazing how you can subscribe to any service instantly, but when you try to cancel, suddenly you have to find a dragon to fly you to Mordor." It's hilarious, but it's completely true. Companies make it a one-click process to take your money, and then they make you jump through 100 hoops to cancel. This is exactly why you need a strict, ruthless subscription audit. Write them all down and slay the ones you aren't actually using.
Moving right along to pillar number 2, emotional and social spending.
Sometimes you know exactly where your money is going, but you spend it anyway, right? This is where spending stops being a math problem and becomes a psychological one. There's this great anecdote from our source material about the $7 vanilla ice cream fix. The creator noted that whenever they felt sad or lonely, they'd treat themselves to a vanilla ice cream. Now, $7 isn't a lot, but the underlying habit is what really matters. When we've had a bad week, we spend money just to feel better. But that emotional spending, it only feels good for about 15 minutes, and then the money is just gone. If you leave this unchecked, it quietly drains your wealth over time.
The good news is you can actually build the skill of emotional intelligence to fight this. The next time you feel that urge to impulse buy, run it through this really simple 3-step checklist. 1. Do I actually need this? 2. Does it bring me closer to my financial goals? And 3. Does it align with my core values? If the answer to any of these is no, force yourself to take a pause. It's an incredibly powerful circuit breaker for emotional spending.
Now let's talk about the social side of things, which brings us to this number. $3,000. On average, people spend about $250 a month just keeping up with peer group activities. Over a year, that adds up to $3 grand. You're either spending money you don't have, or you stay home and get major FOMO. So what's the fix? Complete honesty. Be transparent with your true friends about your budget limits. The real ones, they'll respect your financial boundaries for sure.
All right, on to pillar number 3, the big purchase problem.
You see, emotional and social spending are usually small leaks, but skipping a daily latte is not going to save you if you lock yourself into massive structural debt traps. And this brilliantly illustrates how you protect yourself on one of the biggest purchases you'll make, a car. It's called the 24-10 rule. The 20 means putting at least 20% down. The 4 means financing for no more than 4 years. And the 10, and this is absolutely crucial, means your total transportation costs must stay under 10% of your gross monthly income. Right now, the average car loan term is stretched to an insane 68 months just to make the monthly payments feel manageable. Do not fall for that trap. Stick to this framework.
We see a really similar trap with housing. Here's the 28% rule. Basically, your total monthly payment, so that's principal, interest, taxes, and insurance, should not exceed 28% of your gross income. For example, a $400,000 home might have a payment of around $2,600, meaning you'd realistically need a salary of $112,000 to safely afford it. The really uncomfortable truth here is that a bank will often approve you for way more house than you can actually afford. You have to enforce this rule yourself so you don't end up house poor.
Which brings us to pillar number 4, automating savings. This part isn't really about what you spend. It's entirely about how you manage what you keep. A lack of structure here is where almost all financial ambition falls apart. 92% of people completely fail to achieve their financial goals. And that massive failure rate, it isn't caused by a lack of ambition. It's caused by a lack of an actionable plan. Most people treat saving like an afterthought, you know? They pay bills, spend whatever feels right, and just hope there's something left over at the end of the month. Spoiler alert, there rarely is.
To fix this, you literally have to save first and spend what's left. A Consumer Financial Protection Bureau study found that when participants relied on manual discipline to save, they put away about $80 a month. But when they enrolled in an automated savings plan, that number more than doubled to $167. The psychology here is beautifully simple. You can't spend what you don't see. Automating your finances removes the need for willpower entirely.
So, the crucial point is that putting a system in place does all the heavy lifting for you. And that brings us perfectly into our final pillar, claiming free money.
This is the easiest one to fix, yet it's the one that frustrates financial experts the most. $1,336. That's the exact average amount of employer 401k match money that workers simply leave behind every single year. A company match is literally 100% immediate return on your money. Yet roughly 1 in 4 workers don't contribute enough to capture it.
Now, maybe $1,300 doesn't sound completely life-changing today, but when you factor in compound interest over a 40-year career, leaving that annual match on the table results in a loss of over $45,000. You're giving up a massive chunk of your future wealth simply because you haven't taken the time to check a few boxes in your HR portal.
So, here is your immediate homework. First, check your 401k match this week, not next month, this week. Make sure you're maximizing your contributions to get every single dollar your company offers. It's a 10-minute task that can be worth tens of thousands of dollars. And hey, if you don't have a 401k or you live outside the US, look into tax-advantaged accounts like a Roth IRA, where your earnings can grow entirely tax-free.
Which brings us to the end of our explainer today. You know, you don't need to be rich to start executing these habits, but you do need to start. To wrap things up, I have a question for you. Which of these 5 invisible traps has been quietly draining your wealth the most? And more importantly, which one are you going to fix today? Take charge of your finances this week, implement these steps, and I'll see you in the next explainer.